I watch a lot less like lifestyle content now because I think my life got better. Not better in the sense of like I'm happy or whatever, but like I mean, yeah, sure I am. I'm 10. Just to like set the record straight, I'm deeply depressed.
Welcome to Stan, the podcast where we dissect our enthusiastic and at times obsessive relationships with cultural phenomena. I mean, have you ever caught yourself unironically insisting that it's not just a phase? Or stayed up all night to finish that book that you just can't put down? Or have you ever had such a huge crush on a celebrity that it made your heart physically ache? I have. So join me as we figure out why certain things or people capture our attention and affection so well. I'm really happy that you're here. One of the most heated and meaningful discussions I've ever had began when someone said they admire Mr. Beast for his charitable donations. If you don't know, Mr. Beast is a famous content creator with 411 million YouTube subscribers who is just hailed as the first billionaire under 30 not to be born into generational wealth, which, credit where credit's due, hats off, Mr. Beast. To me, the idea of using people's misfortune as a spectacle by which to create content is a little dystopian, and the portmanteau philanthrotainment sends shivers to the depths of my core. We got into whether there should be a cap on how much wealth people are able to amass, the most effective forms of development and donations, and most importantly, the modern phenomena of the YouTube influencer. YouTube influencers are something I feel so far removed from, not because I don't understand it conceptually, but because there is unlimited content that I feel I could just get sucked into if I'm not careful, and I already have enough trouble getting off of Instagram. Also, YouTube has changed so much since I was in the basement using my friend's little desktop PC to show each other Charlie the Unicorn and Harry Potter Puppet Pals. Not to gender everything, but when I saw that tweet, showing a woman a video is a great sign of respect in their culture, I felt that. Because do you know how many times, mostly on dates in the early days of seeing someone, where I've politely smiled through a man showing me a little video on his phone, insisting that I'm going to love it? This all got me thinking about influencers. My unexamined belief is that it's so appealing because it's the ultimate American dream. If only you have the energy and the spirit and the drive to create a following, you can be plucked out of obscurity to be given money and resources and power, no matter where you are in the world. It also highlights the generational divide insofar as it's the ultimate test of people who are just famous for being famous. Though I always respond to these accusations, especially after living in such a content creator heavy city as Dubai, by saying, if I had the wherewithal as a teen to start filming my everyday life and eventually became someone with the wealth and opportunity and job as Emma Chamberlain, I 100% would. This obviously assumes a comparable charisma and magnetism that I don't think I have, unfortunately, but you get the point. To speak about the enduring popularity of YouTube, whether the medium is being hijacked by corporations, and exactly why there is such huge audiences for summaries of TV shows you've never even watched, I spoke to Lydia. Lydia is someone who I have always admired from afar for being kind and honestly fucking hysterical. I was so thrilled she gave me the time of day to record this conversation. And I'm about to drop you into the midst of me desperately trying to remind her the last time we crossed paths. Enjoy!
James Bond?
Yeah, we went to James Bond. It's embarrassing for me. So, by the way, I have a crazy good memory, so please don't be alarmed by the fact that I remember all of this.
Okay.
I just moved to Paris and I just started dating my boyfriend at the time. He planned a romantic weekend away, but we were an awful couple and the cracks were definitely beginning to show. And you and...
We went to watch James Bond?
Yeah.
I do remember this. I just totally forgot about the James Bond bit, but I do remember us sitting in flat afterwards.
Yeah, but this is what I mean. I have the creepiest memory of all time, and it really gets me into trouble because I'll be like, oh, didn't you say that your brother liked vanilla syrup in his latte? And people are like, what? So I have to like tone it down every once in a while. The structure of the evening and the reason it was relevant to my romantic weekend away is that the cracks were starting to show in our relationship. And I think one of the reasons why I was like getting really anxious to get back to London.
You're like, I need to relax. I need to chill.
I was like, I need Daniel Craig immediately.
I need Daniel Craig in a high stakes situation, and that will make me
The only way I
calm.
can get through this weekend.
Exactly. That might help me relax.
So do you want to introduce yourself?
Full of introduction, should I like sex location? Yeah.
Ew. It just reminded me of like Omegle.
So my name is Lydia. I'm in my late 20s. And I live in the UK.
Nice. And you are here to talk about YouTube. So
Yes.
can you tell us, how did you first get involved with YouTube?
I don't remember the exact moment, obviously. I just feel like it's been a constant part of my life since I was probably like an early teen. I think probably when it became really prevalent in my life and my watching habits was when I came to the UK. So I grew up in Singapore and then I came to the UK and I ended up going to boarding school. And for some reason, like our internet was blocked, right? And so they would never let us watch TV shows, but like YouTube wasn't. And I think that was also the time when like that whole era of UK YouTubers became a thing. So like the Zoellas, the Alfie Days, the lifestyle vloggers became like a massive deal. And I think I probably started watching a lot of their content. And then just over the years, I feel like I got really invested in it. I have like a really addictive personality. And I always say that I get it from my mum because I'll like call her and she'll be up at like 3 a.m. and I'll be like, why are you awake? And she's like, I'm playing Angry Birds. So I feel like I got that, but just for like consuming content. I think it just became an easy way to switch off and just being like, I'm going to vicariously live through these like, I must have been what, like 13 at the time, and these people were like 25, 26, and I'm like watching them go about their lives, like going to Aldi, doing their little shops, and I'm like, you know what, this is escapism. Probably a little bit.
When you say escapism, like, do you think you were having a tough time that you were so involved with these YouTubers?
I think what it was is just that being at boarding school in particular was so routine. Like you go to school, there are such set times for when lunch is, when you come back, what you do. Like in the evening, you do your homework, like you have a set bedtime. And then you see this like group of kids or like young adults who are just like living their lives and doing whatever they want. And then that becomes like exciting for you to watch and live vicariously through them. I think my viewing habits on YouTube in particular have changed over time. I watch a lot less like lifestyle content now because I think my life got better. Not better in the sense of like I'm happy or whatever, but like, I mean, yeah, sure, I am. I'm 10. Just to like set the record straight, I'm deeply depressed. But I left school and like I went out and started having like an actual life, and I don't feel the need anymore to be like, oh, let me look at what someone else's life looks like. That's so bizarre. It's almost too much to be like looking at someone else's like lifestyle vlogs and being like, wow, that's a whole nother life that I'm just randomly like trying to live when I have my own life going on.
I have so many follow-ups from that. But first of all, I tried to like do a deep dive of YouTubers. Obviously, the nature of YouTube is that there is just so much fucking content. And so I like started to do these really kind of like rudimentary Google searches. And I don't think I have like quite a grasp on the landscape of like the UK YouTubers that you are so like deftly referencing, and I'm like, I don't know who you're talking about. Can you give a little bit more background to that?
Yeah. So I think it was this group of, do you know Casper Lee? I probably think that's the most like famous one. So it was like him and then these other, for lack of better words, and like apologies, but like Miss YouTubers, I guess. I can't even explain how mundane the stuff that they were doing in their vlogs were. Like, it's
Mm.
just literally them going around being like, and today I went to my 9 to 5. Because obviously, this was at a time when, like, YouTube wasn't really considered, I guess, a career in the sense that we would see it now. It was like Zoella, who I feel like actually is still really massive. But like Zoella, Casper Lee, and they all used to go to like VidCon together in LA. And they would all do like collabs with each other. I don't know. I don't want to say like laid the path for what influencing is now, but I do think it did. Not them in particular, but early YouTube like vloggers.
Yeah, I was just about to say, I don't know whether I would compare a YouTuber to an Instagram influencer and what I think the difference is, but I do think there's like a Venn diagram with like a big crossover, but I don't think they're necessarily one and the same, but as a way of fulfilling like a need for independence that you weren't getting in boarding school. And I often think about how regimented our lives were. And I get it because you're having to secure 100 girls who are in the most formative and tempestuous years of their life. Not a job I would want to take on ever. So I understand why it was so regimented. But what I find really interesting is that in terms of the type of content, there are so many influencers, and I guess we have very different algorithms, but so many influencers who do that, like a day in the life with me, a lawyer. But you said you moved away from that.
I almost feel like that kind of content I'm more likely to watch on TikTok. I think YouTube in general, and this is not based on any sort of analytics that I've looked into or formal research that I've done into this.
No, I'm so glad. Just conjecture, please. That's it.
Yes. These are just my feelings, and this is my truth.
I'm only interested in your feelings. I don't care about science.
Exactly. I feel like the trend that I've seen, at least with YouTube, is a lot more like long form content, in the sense of I remember watching these vlogs back in the day or YouTube videos that were like 3 to 4 minutes long. It's like 3 minutes of like how you do a cut crease makeup look or full glam in under 5 minutes. Stuff like that, where it was like quick and easy almost. But now I watch a lot of weird TV show recaps where like one guy will have gone through every single plot point of like season 4 of Gossip Girl and like put them all together, and some of them are literally like 2 hours long. And I don't know if it's like my undiagnosed ADHD or something, but like I will just put it on 2 times speed and will be locked into that for like an hour and 15 minutes. So I don't know what's going on there. This is so like contradictory, where I was like, I think I've moved on and I have a really fulfilling life and I don't need to watch lifestyle content, but I will sit down for 2 hours and watch this one recap of season 4 of Gossip Girl. So
are you like watching it with your whole brain? Or
no.
is it like, okay.
No. It's a 2-screen watch. Like, I've got my phone up. I'm knitting, I'm doing something else. Like, something else is stimulating me on top of this. But like, back to your day in the life stuff, I think I tend to get that on TikTok. I'm not watching like a 30-minute video on a lawyer like talking me through her billable yeah, exactly.
Actually, I read a really interesting article ages ago about how Emily in Paris is the first thing that was produced so that you could kind of not watch it and instead be on your phone, but just like have it in the background. Like, it's aesthetic, it's fun, the plot isn't very difficult to follow. I don't know if that's necessarily true. I, as a person, oscillate between hyperfocus, less and less these days, and being completely like nothing behind the eyes. And I feel like the second one is how I feel when I'm scrolling through TikTok or Instagram Reels or whatever. Like, it is a way for me to like quiet the noise in my brain. But how do you select these videos? Like, what do you type in?
Well, I think it started because I've never watched Lost, and I was like, I feel like everyone is always being like, Lost is like the best television show of all time or whatever. Well, I feel that everyone says that, and that's all that matters. And I never watched it, and I was like, I'm not gonna watch all 8 seasons of Lost when there's like new content always coming out.
Yeah, true.
So I was like, Lost recap video, and it's just this guy recapping Lost for like 2 hours, but in like a really funny way. So, which is then weird because I end up watching these videos not because I actually want to know the plot of Lost. I'm
Mhm.
watching it because actually this guy in himself is really entertaining, and it's just
Yeah.
like a different like level of entertainment now where I'm like, I actually don't care or give a shit about what happened in Lost, and I don't care about the way that it ended or that it's probably not the greatest TV show of all time, but this guy is making it really entertaining. So
Mhm.
now that just like comes up in my algorithm, which is which is a curse and a bless. Blessing. Oh my god.
A curse and a bless.
You know what? A cursing. Yep. I stand by that.
What I was thinking about when I was writing notes and like doing my little deep dive into old YouTube videos is it really democratizes content. It's the same thing with TikTok. There's a really, really attractive idea that you can be plucked out of total obscurity, become, like super famous just from a webcam in your living room.
Yeah.
I also think it fosters like a sense of like really, really self-deprecating and goofy humor that isn't necessarily present in scripted TV or reality TV, because it's really encouraging someone to use themselves as the butt of a joke, or like really outlandish humor as well, like Vine energy.
That's a really good point. I feel like it's almost adjacent or an extension of like meme culture. So much of my humor nowadays is just me quoting TikToks that I've seen, YouTube videos that have just like been weirdly impactful.
I tend to speak in hyperbole, but I do think social media, like YouTube, Vines, TikToks, has entirely defined the humor of our generation. And I had a long conversation with this about someone in another episode about how when you like quote a TikTok and someone who's not chronically scrolling is like, what the fuck are you talking about? And you're like, oh,
Yes.
sorry.
I actually had like such a funny interaction with someone that I worked with because I was always like under my breath making like TikTok references, which
Oh
is
God.
so unhinged of me. But like I would make all these little references under my voice, and like one day she like turned around to me and she goes, I just want you to know that I understand every TikTok reference you make. And I just felt so seen. Like I was just so I was like, maybe this is the workplace for me. I was like, this is what feminism is, women supporting other women.
So did you ever find during your engagement with YouTube, it was ever becoming like an issue? I mean, like for me, this is such a bad excuse, but because I'm an expat and people connect over Instagram, and that's like the first thing people ask for when you meet them, like, oh, we should like follow each other on Instagram. I just found my new apartment through Instagram. Dude, I did not have a place to live until yesterday, and I'm moving out of my house in 10 days. That's my excuse for keeping it, but I know that it's a problem for me. My attention span is decreasing by the day. I require the dopamine hit and the instant gratification I get when I scroll. For you, did YouTube ever reach a similar point?
I think now looking back on it, it's never been the same level of addiction as what I probably have with like TikTok or Instagram now. YouTube has never, I don't think it's ever been something that I've actively thought about as a waste of time or like detrimental. I don't know if that's my own like disillusionment with illusion. Is that a word?
I'm not sure it was used correctly, but it is a word.
Interesting. I think as I've gotten older, I use it now, I think, in a healthier way of like, it's a way to explore my interests. I find I'm a visual learner. So Vox and Bloomberg, they always do really interesting behind the scenes looks at famous restaurants or how the busiest kitchens in America work, or always have really great cooking videos. It's interesting. There's a level of like education to it that you don't always get on other platforms, and it's high quality. More often than not, when you're on YouTube, you're looking at videos that you can tell have very, very high production value, And I often find now that I don't consider it a social media platform. That's just based on my own feelings about it with no science to back it up.
Oh my God, the amount of times that at my corporate job, someone's been like, oh, do you know how to do this function on Excel? Or like, if I'm sitting with my dad and we're trying to make, an appliance work, I will always be like, oh, let's just YouTube it as well. I have a lot of very disjointed hobbies and I'm too proud to explore them in a group because I'm not a team player. For instance, like I really like to paint. People will be like, oh, like go to a painting class, which I have done, by the way. Oh my God, I did it in Paris. And the French, well, most people other than the English, I guess, I didn't notice this when I was growing up because I was in England, like I didn't realize how direct the rest of the world is. So I hadn't listened to the instructions properly. And this French teacher pulls up my painting and is like, if you guys are wondering like what not to do, this is it.
I feel like that's so Asian as well. Like when I was studying abroad in China and I would come in like not wearing makeup one day and my Chinese teachers would be like, are you sick? You look really tired. And I was like, thanks, that's just my face.
Exactly. At the beginning of the year, I had hyperfixated on like a specific shade of pink nail varnish. And I was going into different pharmacies to find that shade. One thing I cannot stand about Dubai is people are always trying to sell you something. Like, obviously, a lot of people come here to make money and people are just trying to make a living. But like, Jesus Christ, bought big headphones so that people would leave me alone in public because there's always someone coming out of the woodwork. And I went in to a pharmacy trying to look for this thing, and this woman was obviously trying to sell me things. And I was feeling really, really self-conscious about a breakout that I was having. She was like, we've got loads of really good acne treatments. And I was like, I know I have pimples, like leave it. Like, and I know you're trying to be helpful and like I get it.
Yeah.
But like, oh my God, maybe I've been too sheltered by England. Another thing, as you said, these long form videos that have really high production value. But like YouTube for me used to be, rough around the edges. Now the people who are putting up videos are like Vogue. I do feel like there's a change in direction.
So I work a lot in social media actually, but it's very corporate comms. And so I do a lot more of like B2B reputation management, like brand building. And I actually think what YouTube has evolved into now makes a lot of sense. When I was saying like, I've never thought of YouTube as a social media channel because I see the way that big brands, like corporate brands, can use really engaging video content as a way to build your brand from like a very professional and perhaps more formal social media perspective. So it doesn't surprise me. What I've never been able to really wrap my head around with YouTube is actually the algorithm. I always hear like influencers or vloggers and content creators saying it's so difficult to keep up in terms of like, does long form content perform better, or like shorter videos, is that more engaging, and then there's a whole added layer of ads. I think that has made it a really interesting platform as well for people who are in marketing. I think it's a really versatile platform actually. I think you can do a lot with it, and I think there is like a very creative side of it, but I think for things like Vogue, but also things like Architectural Digest, it's such a like obvious platform for them to be using, but they do it in such a professional way on such a creative platform.
I really chafe against like, I don't know, I work at a big company, for instance, and I do feel like it's slightly hijacking a platform that was supposed to be, I don't know, when you said the word thought leadership, I'm not going to lie, like my entire being just shriveled. I feel like YouTube is now becoming akin to LinkedIn.
Yeah, it's funny you bring that up because a lot of what I do at my job every day is to tell people that users want people-centric content. And that's what I tell clients every day. You want talking heads, you want your leadership being empathetic on film, but obviously if you do it wrong, you get people like you who are like, this is the most disingenuous thing I've ever seen in my life. They obviously have like a little PR agency behind them telling them, get a good soundbite.
You're right, it can be done well, but it's just such a fucking fine line to walk because it can be so corny if it's done wrong.
Yeah, I think it's Ryanair that does it really well, where like Ryanair is like the shittest airline in the world. Not a hot take, probably a cold take. But There's something so endearing and so phenomenal about their social media presence, which
Mhm,
almost makes them redeemable, which is
mhm.
crazy. I guess it is kind of all about branding though.
The people who are going to be using it, in my experience, because I use it often because I have no money, students who are like just come out of college, therefore they're able to have that social media presence, or they're banking on the fact that an older generation is not going to be exposed to that kind of content. Because if I were on his way to like a big old business meeting or something, and I go on social media and see there are like memes where they're like sexualizing planes, I'd be like, are you fucking joking me? But I
Yeah.
also think our generation, maybe I'm giving us too much credit, but I do think that we're fundamentally very unserious.
I think so. And I think that's why content like that performs so well of like, obviously this is the audience for it. And then it's almost mutually reinforcing. It's like the more ridiculous content you keep having, the more that like seeps into people's senses of humor. Cycle of really horrific, stupid memes that everyone knows and has just formed the foundation of like an entire generation's sense of humor.
Mm.
And I don't think you can go back from that, unfortunately.
How do you discern between good content or bad content? I mean, you mentioned production value, for instance, when you were talking about Vox, but on the other hand, you were citing Ryanair, who, like, I would I would venture to say has very low production value. Like,
Mm.
I think there's an identifiable quality to content that is appealing on YouTube.
Yeah, that's such a good question because like objectively there's always going to be bad content, like content that's shot poorly or the social media side of me wants to say bad content is content that doesn't get engagement of that you think about it maybe more subjectively. Maybe I really like shitty production where I'm like, it's relatable. This is something I can produce and
Mhm.
therefore I like this. I think that's really hard because you can't really yuck someone else's yum in this day and age, especially on YouTube where there's so much content. It's
Yeah.
just constantly growing. Maybe that's a really naive, but a naive and simplistic answer from me, but I just don't think you can define what's good or bad. I mean, we can go about it in so many different ways. We can talk about morally, not content is good or bad either.
I mean, for me, when it comes to YouTube, I think what defines good content or like content that's going to get engagement is ultimately the creator and
Mm.
the charisma they have. And that's so ineffable and so difficult to define. And
Yeah, I guess. I mean, you talk about them having charisma, and I think that is part of it. I feel like oftentimes people who perform really well on camera often fall flat in person, and also vice versa. And I
Mhm.
actually think with content creation becoming a lot more of a mainstream career for people, a lot of it is about marketing and knowing what your audience wants. And this sort of goes back to understanding what Gen Z humor is, knowing that your main audience on TikTok or YouTube might be, girls between the age of like 18 to 27,
Mhm.
and then really being able to tap into that and market yourself well through your video content is a huge part of what content creators do, which I don't think a lot of people give them credit for. I think there is a lot of thinking and strategizing that goes behind creating content like that, especially, these crazy long videos that are like 2 hours long. Obviously, that's
Yeah.
not just like a on the whim. There's been so much thinking that goes into what's going to work for your audience or who you want your audience to be and how you go about getting that.
I also think that's true insofar as even with the biggest YouTube stars, I'm sure it's an iterative process. I'm sure they wouldn't say, oh, I posted my first video and immediately I was popular. They were obviously
Mm.
responding to engagement. And I often as well think about that awkward phase, especially as I start this project, like you're posting and marketing yourself as, yeah, I can see you physically
Yeah.
cringing.
It's so funny you say that because when I first started dating my boyfriend, he was like, people who post on TikTok who aren't famous are so icky. But obviously, the goal for a lot of people is to get to that level where you're an influencer. And to
Mhm.
get there, you obviously have to post on TikTok. And it's going to be a little bit awkward for a while.
I see that a lot as well with like a lot of creators posting when XYZ made fun of me for posting like a creator and here I am at like the front wear at Paris Fashion Week and I'm like, go off, you know what? Like you earned that. You white knuckled your way through some like extremely cringeworthy situations, but it paid off. And actually that's one thing that I do find really appealing about Americans. I mean, there were a lot of problems when I lived there, but like people are encouraged to have confidence and to market themselves. They're less inhibited with those things because it's very much in the service of ambition and in a way that's respected. But England, I don't know whether you agree with me, but like it's such a thing to be successful without having made any effort. Like when we were in school, it was very much like, oh, I got the best grade in the class, but I didn't even study. There's so much effort into showing how effortless it was. And that's so counter to what TikTok and YouTube and that kind of energy.
I agree with all of that completely. Like also having gone to uni in the States and also formerly being American, what they're good at encouraging is trying your absolute hardest. And if you fail, pick yourself back up and try it again.
Yeah.
Whereas places like the UK and also Asia, failure is not an option. So people don't want to seem like they've tried. It's almost like I expect the worst, but kind of hope for the best. But so you're not, disappointed when things don't work out for you. It is a very British thing. I feel like for Asian cultures, it's probably a little bit more of like, if you fail, you suck. I think Americans are very entrepreneurial. And I think that is from encouraging people to make mistakes and not be afraid of failure. It's just like a lot more of a creative environment where you're allowed to go off and, see what happens. And if it fails, it fails. But if not, you become an Addison Rae or whatever her name is. Is that her name? I was going to say Addison Lee, but that's a taxi company.
What was I about to say? First of all, I find the song that she's just released extremely creepy.
Oh my God, I hate it.
Yeah, I know it's really popular, but like the fetishization of like virginity and purity, it gives me like a real ick. Sorry, Addison, go off. Like, I don't mean that to you personally. I didn't like the song lyrics. As if Addison Rae is going to be like, I feel very weird about in my time in America, but like one of the really good things I think I've got out of it is that confidence in knowing what you have to offer and like all of those things. I went on a holiday recently. One night we had all had too much to drink and everyone was sitting around talking about duty and nationhood and identity. And it was me, some Irish people and some Americans. And the Americans were like, oh, I just feel really lucky to live in a place that has such a solid human rights structure. And I was like, and they were like, yeah, and also like a place that has like so many opportunities. And I was like, there isn't a social security net for a lot of Americans, like a meaningful one. And a lot of that entrepreneurial spirit comes from, I don't know, a lack of options if you do fall through. Like it is very much like failure is not an option because it isn't.
Yeah. Like the hustle culture, it's if you don't hustle, you're dead.
I'm not singing the praises of anywhere that I've lived, but I do think there is a really sinister side to that entrepreneurialism and that self-sufficiency. I'm not going to try and do a smooth segue. Can you call a controversy amongst YouTubers that really shocked you?
I find the concept of family vloggers or like family YouTubers very, very weird. I guess it's such a fine line, but I find it very, very icky and very weird to be making money off of your personal life and off of your kids as well. I find that a really strange thing to be doing. And I remember there have been a few, I think, over the years, family vloggers who have come under scrutiny for being stern with their kids on camera, which could possibly reflect a unstable household, or this is going to get really dark, but having people sexualize their kids in the comments and then like not really doing anything about it and then continuing to monetize their videos. I feel every few years I hear about a different family that has come under the same like allegations of mistreating their kids or allowing perverts to pay to watch their kids.
Yeah, it's important to consider. Like when my sister had a baby, first of all, I'm so much more obsessed with him than I thought was ever possible for a child. But it did become really clear to me because our entire family group chat is just photos of my nephews, which I would not change for the world. I always think like when I take a really cute video or a picture, I'm like, oh my God, I want to share this. And then I'm like, well, he can't consent to that. That's not your child. I find this like with anyone. Like what I find really weird is TikTok's filming other people in the street. like monetize the shit out of yourself. Like, I don't care. But
Hmm.
don't be nasty to other people, and especially
Yeah.
not children who don't have the wherewithal to, think about the consequences. Okay, lastly, in terms of YouTubers, they get
Hmm.
so wealthy and so powerful very, very quickly. A lot of them aren't formally represented. They don't
Hmm.
have the access to the PR teams and the legal teams. So I think one of the reasons why there's such a frequency of these scandals, they have all the power and money that corrupts a lot of people, but they don't have the team in the background to make it go away. But an audience is still invested in, like, knowing more about them.
I would say probably now there are bigger influencer marketing firms that support them, but I think for a lot of YouTubers, so much of the creative process is them by themselves. They'll
Mhm.
film, they'll edit, they post, it's all them. They do all sort of their social media around it as well by themselves. And I think in that process, it's very easy to be editing
Mhm.
or be filming a video and not actually get a good read of how that's going to be perceived by other people. I mean, I often find this when I see like really shitty ads or when a controversy about a TV show or a movie comes out and you're like, how did
Mhm.
that get past the focus group? Like, there
Yeah.
isn't a focus group for a YouTuber, really. They're kind of
Yeah.
just independently working on their content. So, yeah, exactly, and completely agree with that point of not only is there, I guess, the professional legal expertise that, a
After, yeah.
celebrity or an actor is going to be getting, or a brand or corporation gets either, but it really is such an independent job that it can very easily just be put out there with no review or anything.
Yeah, that's so true. I didn't even think about that. I mean, like, there are so many jokes that I make that I look back and I'm like, oh, it was mistimed, or it was offensive or insensitive. Also, I worked as a journalist for a hot second in Egypt. The first ever piece that I wrote, I gave to my editor, and my editor was like, are you actually fucking joking? Like, there's so much in here that I can't publish. Like, because I'd only written, academic essays. Who's going to read that? No one's going to
Hmm.
read my dissertation. But if you're distributing material, you have to be so careful.
Yeah.
And I hadn't appreciated that until I had someone standing in front of my desk being like, is this a joke? And I was like, oh,
Right. Whose job it was to be like, I need to take into account how many people are going to read this and be like, what the fuck?
exactly. It's very rarely someone's job to protect you. Okay, where do you predict YouTube videos as a medium going in the future?
Well, like it kind of goes two ways or down two paths. Like it either becomes a tool of big brands and corporations of this thought leadership platform, but I do think it's likely to become a more creative platform, in my opinion. That's from the content that I'm watching. I've seen it evolve so much. And as you say, it's a free resource. And I think it's such a great way for creative people to experiment with
Mm.
visuals, with storytelling. And I don't really think there's a limit to what you can do with YouTube. Obviously, there's a limit in the sense of you can't be a pervert. But from a creative standpoint, there's always going to be content and there's always going to be a demand for content. I do think long form content will continue to dominate. I think that's what people want from YouTube,
Mm.
especially with apps like TikTok and Instagram and Reels being a thing. That was like a really boring social media like analysis of it.
I mean, one thing I suppose I will ask, because you were like, oh, you can't be a pervert, is like, is the regulation of YouTube that strict?
Again, I don't know too much about this, but I actually, from my experience working with Meta on getting offensive and inappropriate content taken down, I do think YouTube, in my experience, has been better. I think it's pretty clear with video content what is not appropriate. Whilst, I think the big problem with Meta and Facebook and Instagram is your little text post. How can anyone determine whether or not that's freedom of speech or just you expressing an opinion that someone disagrees with?
Right.
I think YouTube is built around knowing that there are horrible people in the world that are probably going to put up like child pornography or something. And because video can be so explicit, they have stronger tools and methods to review content in a quicker way than Facebook or Instagram or Meta, where there is a lot more argument about what is freedom of expression and what is you just being a racist, if that makes sense.
The media might lend itself quite easily to justifying the censorship of like certain materials, but in terms of the sheer amount of content that's being uploaded, because I mean, it depends where you are, but for instance, I used to live in a country where if I gave my phone number to someone, like, I don't know, like a pharmacist, so that when my prescription came in, they could call me, that pharmacist would often circulate my number, and then I would get texts from random people being like, hello, can we be friends? And I'd be like, no. And I also got like a lot of people who used to send me like explicit videos out of nowhere. Anyway, it was gross. Please stop harassing women. It's really gross. Beyond my own horrible experiences with men. The point that I'm trying to make is that like often when someone wants you to see a video, like, you know, when someone wants to circulate a video, they can probably find a way of putting it in front of your eyes.
Yeah, like I don't know enough about YouTube's. I do know that when you're uploading videos onto YouTube, though, there tends to be a longer review process and it can be declined. Whereas, you know, with Facebook or Instagram, it's so easy to just post. It's a reactive complaint that someone will report it, but it's already out there.
I want to as well make clear that, like, I definitely believe the onus is on tech companies, especially with the power that they have, to censor the content, you know, the harmful content that could come up online. But is it a losing game, basically, because people are gross? Okay. 2 last questions, I promise.
And then you can fuck right off.
Yeah, and then you can never speak to me again.
Yeah.
Is what does your suggested content bar look like?
This feels so exposing. It's been a lot of cooking shows and like cooking segments recently. So that's like the wholesome. It's those stupid like 2-hour long videos of the different seasons of TV shows. But also I just watch a lot of movie trailers. Like I love a good movie trailer, and that's like most of my content. Like movies that I'm never gonna watch.
Oh, okay. Okay, so
Or like movie trailers that show the entire movie, and then I'm like, I don't need to watch this stupid movie now.
I feel the opposite way. I was watching the movie trailer of, what's it called? The one about the voting of the popes. It's a Stanley Tucci. It's because I'm obsessed with Stanley Tucci.
I feel like I knew that about you, weirdly. Like that feels really right.
That feels like something I would share publicly. He's just got like a gravitas towards him that I'm like, I'm obsessed with you. Conclave. Okay. Watch the trailer because it was trying to create an intensity that I just did not feel. And I think it was because they were trying really hard not to show
the whole plot.
The whole plot.
Plot twist.
But it was just like a lot of people shouting and saying like ominous things with very stressful music. And I was like, this is not, I don't really know what I'm like. Anyway, so there's that. There's the other end of things where like, okay, I said this to someone at work. One of my many unsuccessful attempts at trying to bond with someone at work. I was like, I love a psychological thriller, okay, or like a psychological horror. It's my favorite thing. And I really like watching a movie and then going back home and I'll watch the trailer again. Now with the knowledge of what's happened in the movie and what every shot is taken from and the context of every quote, I find it just like really interesting and kind of satisfying to like rewatch the trailer.
That is cool actually, but especially with thrillers or like crime stuff, if there are like red herrings that they've put in the trailer to make you think something was different. But
I told someone that at work because this is so embarrassing. I was working at the UN and someone asked me to like pull up YouTube.
Oh my god, that's so intrusive.
She was like, oh yeah, so just type in the search bar. And of course I click on the search bar and immediately like my entire search history comes up. Thankfully, I think I'd just gone on like a trailer binge like the day before. We got into this conversation. She was like, that's actually just fucking weird. And I was like, okay, well, I'll see myself out then. Okay, last one. I have to ask everybody this. Who is your celebrity crush?
Am I allowed to give multiple answers?
Oh, please go in as much depth as you're willing to go.
I was freaking out about it because I was like, this is the one question I feel like I can't answer, because you know when people ask you like what your favorite movie is and you're like, I've never watched a movie before all of a sudden and you can't remember like anything you've ever watched. I feel that way about celebrity crushes, but then I like really thought about it. And then for a while I could only think of women and I was like, oh, okay, like I am a straight woman. But women, Dakota Johnson, love her.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Dua Lipa, obviously.
Oh, always, yeah.
Always. And then men, I feel like it's a wide range. I've gone Charles Leclerc, F1. I've gone Cillian Murphy,
Oh, always.
iconic. And I've gone Oscar Isaac. Those are my three.
Oh, I'm glad you're in a relationship because I feel like we would have some love triangles on the loose.
We definitely would in this super realistic scenario.
I meant like
You were like, because I'm actually
Yes.
dating Murphy and I get really jealous. So,
no, I wish. I just want to say it's so funny because we get to the end where I'm like, oh, who's your celebrity crush? And every single person like panics. This is the lowest stakes question like of the entire.
No, I feel like it's revealing. Everything else I'm like fine to be judged on because I'm like, I have conviction and this is how I feel about things. But I don't want people to judge me for the person that I find attractive, you know? That's crazy. That feels personal.
It's like dating the uggo, which was me always. My friends were like, are you sure? I'm like, I don't know what to tell you.
Gigi and Zara this the other day where I was like, would you guys tell me if I was dating someone really ugly? And they were both like, no, probably not. And I was like, guys, what the fuck?
I had someone just like absolutely shatter my heart. And I remember I was crying to one of my friends about it. And she was like, I'm going to say it once. Can you just tell me what is the appeal? The way that I was like, you know what? Fuck you. When you're feeling sad about someone that you shouldn't be feeling sad about, and then the other person like, you know, they're kind of ugly, right? And you're like, what do you want from me?
You're like, this actually didn't help. This made me feel so much worse.
Thanks so much for joining us. Please give us a good rating if you're able, and if you hated it, then you literally don't have to listen ever again. With special thanks to my interviewee and everyone else who made this possible, including the friends that gave me the deluded confidence and equipment to record these episodes. Everything stated in these episodes are solely opinions and should not at all be taken as fact. Bye!